Hello everybody, welcome back to the Redmond TV and the fan reaction part of the day after Liverpool beat Bournemouth 2-0. Massive seismic victory for the Reds down on the south coast. Tell me, how are we feeling? What does it mean? How good was it? Yeah, were we nervous? I reckon we were a little bit nervous, weren't we? It was very much a game of fine margins, I think it's fair to say. It was decided upon by the sheer class and the genius of Mo Salah, who has now surpassed Frank Lampard in the Premier League all-time goal scorers record. 21 goals this season in the Premier League alone, may I add. Absolutely phenomenal. The fella is a joke. Takes a penalty wonderfully, never in doubt, right in the corner, like the corner of corners. And then his second goal is just, I think, of utter beauty. Liverpool were good value for it, I think. I don't think it was quite as polished and quite as dominant as a display as I would have really liked. I sat here for a long time pre-match saying I really want us to come out and sort of give no corner and just be at it from whistle 1 to whistle 90. It wasn't that, but it was good and it was hard fought and it was challenging, and maybe that'll stand us in even better stead than just dismantling a very good Bournemouth side, I think it's fair to say. So let's dive into it then. What do we think? Kieran, not at our best there, but a very gritty performance. Yeah, absolutely. Steve Ryder's gone with it. He said it. He said those words, ladies and gentlemen. I'll leave them to you for now. I'm not willing to go there just yet. Speak to me Monday, potentially, because it's all eyes on the Emirates now, isn't it? It's over to you, Arsenal. Absolutely over to you, Arsenal. What are you made of? What have you got in the tank? What have you got in your locker? Because we've done our business. Let's see what they're all about. Let's see the cut of their jib tomorrow, shall we? Champions. I tend to agree with this, and there's lots of different Champions type performances. I'm still waiting for the one where we do just batter a very good side in their own ground. That feels like the final boss of Champions performance, really, from a Liverpool point of view this season. But yeah, make no two ways about it. Like, that was a proper display and a very hard fought victory. Huijsen or Quansah? Listen, I've still probably Quansah. I haven't seen enough of Huijsen to say he's the one. I think he's very impressive. I was quite impressed with him today, though. He gave away a number of fouls and probably should have been booked long before he eventually was. And I think people are too quick to dismiss Joel Quansah as a viable option for us personally. I'm not going to write him off just yet. Great performance all around. Absolutely it was. 2-0 slot personified. He was very anxious and nervous on the touchline. You could tell he wasn't enjoying certain aspects of the display. I think certainly at the start of the second half we lost a large amount of the control. I wouldn't say all the control, but it was definitely too open, and Bournemouth definitely started that half the stronger. They started both half stronger, to be honest with you, but very sloppy from both kickoffs, which was a little bit annoying. But Slot definitely cut a frustrated figure, and he definitely looked a little bit annoyed and angered by what he was seeing from his players. And I think at one point he was shouting control because we just weren't able to get any up until the second goal, really, which again is just a moment of pure class right at the top drawer from Mo Salah, of course, because that's what he does. Who's got the bragging rights in the office on Monday? That's right, it's me. Up the Reds, so happy with the win. Yeah, maybe even more so, Diane, if a certain other team drops some points tomorrow. Ash says, the pen was soft, but all teams get soft pens. Yeah, I think it was soft. I do think it's a penalty, I must admit. I likened it to the Six Nations on the minute, if anyone who does like rugby. When like a winger's run away from a defender, they often just tend to try and clip the heels of the attacker, because it just knocks them off stride, and often it means that they'll clip their own heels thereafter. You can only imagine Gakpo's done exactly the same there, and it's Cook, isn't it, has knocked him just ever so slightly. Just meant he's collided with his own calf, because there's no reason why Gakpo's stride would do that. His gait isn't so odd that he'd randomly run into himself. Like, he must have been clipped. So it is relatively soft, but for me it was a nailed on pen from the outset. Dickie I read says, massive win, putting the pressure on Arsenal. 100%, mate. And that's what it's all about. We've already seen the cracks of Arsenal start to appear the other weekend, when obviously we beat Brentford late on, and then they weren't able to get over the line against Aston Villa. And I think this has got even more time and breathing room to get into their heads, really. We're 24 hours more or less ahead of them playing, and they'll be fully aware that they have to go and win. Nothing else will do. Anything less than 3 points tomorrow, it's not title over, it's not race over, But the point swing, and again, I make the point earlier on, the momentum swing that gives us off the back of it is absolutely huge, and it's so significant. So that in isolation today, that 3 points is massive, but what it could mean in the grander scheme of things right now as we sit here knows no bounds. The ref was legit making the rules up as he went along. Yeah, I thought that it's fine. Listen, any game that we win, I can make peace with the ref. It was funny how he forgot he had his card seemingly for like 50 minutes and then proceeded to book everybody that committed a foul thereafter. There was a bit of a totting up process going on one or two potentially, but he could have handed out a couple of yellow cards in the first half for my money, didn't, and then proceeded to book everyone in sight, it felt like, for the second half. But yeah, anyway. CC says, Mo and Grav were definitely making it look easy. They look certainly part of the champions, as did the whole team. Yeah, I thought it was... honestly, we'll do the player rankings obviously a little bit later on in the next part of the show, but to a man, more or less today, I thought it was a performance befitting of a team in the position that we found ourselves and we've earned the right to be in, of course. Because I think the rest of midweek definitely helped, and Arne Slot paid Bournemouth the utmost respect by leaving so many big hitters at home. But when you consider the amount of running, the amount of legwork those players had to get through today, and what they've done in recent weeks as well, couple them to him, giving them days off in midweek and not having to travel even. I know it's only across the water, but still, not having to even be a part of that travelling squad and be a part of the match day and all that sort of stuff has done them the world of good. And it's turned out to be a bit of a masterstroke from Arne Slot as well, because that was a testing game today. The scoreline probably doesn't reflect how challenging a proposition that was and just how much of a fight Bournemouth put up, actually, because Bournemouth never said die, not at any point. At no point did they throw in a towel and say 2-0, 10, 15 minutes to go against an absolute, monster of a Liverpool team. That's probably it. That's probably our race ram. They just kept going and kept going. And if we're honest, I mentioned it earlier on, it was a game of fine margins, but Antoine Semenyo alone will walk away from that game thinking, how haven't I scored? Like, partly down to the woodwork and partly down to the sheer brilliance of Alisson Becker, who was just absolutely sensational. That save towards the end, that's silly, that. Like, and there's been question marks around Alisson in recent weeks, and I've been on board with him to a certain extent. I've not been in the camp of, right, we need to have a look at this and maybe make a judgment call on him or Kelleher. I've not quite been there just yet. But that today just tells us all we were chatting shit, basically. Or we were thinking shit if nobody was actually willing to say it out loud, because the fella is just phenomenal. Absolutely. Best goalkeeper I've ever seen Liverpool own. And I was born in 91, so I'm aware the goalkeepers in my lifetime haven't exactly all been winners. But he is by far and away clear of all of them. Absolutely unbelievable. Unbelievable. Ali is back. Gina says, we were looking on many. Yeah, you need a little bit of luck. You need to ride your luck a little bit. And I make you right. I think if that had been against any run-of-the-mill seventh-place Premier League side who haven't been dismantling and swiping aside all before them, and it had been at Anfield, I might have been on board with, like, okay, that was a bit too fortunate for my liking. But anybody who went into that game thinking it was going to be straightforward and it was going to be a cakewalk, they were just wrong, basically. I went in hoping that we would produce a real top-class, top-level performance that did just prove to be far, far too much for Bournemouth. It wasn't quite that. It fell short of that a little bit. But what it was a battling performance, a performance that showed that we were up for any particular type of game in any particular fight, and one that eventually our class and quality won the day on. And that's kind of all you can ask, really. So, yeah, good. A lot of people talk about Trent in the chat and what's happened there. My hope is it was a dead leg. But my concern is it was muscular in terms of his thigh. As ever on this part of the night, if anybody sees Arne Slot talk about it, or any of the players talk about it for that matter, do let me know. Because, yeah, hopefully nothing too concerning there. The beauty of that is it's likely to be Conor Bradley in midweek anyway. Then it's Plymouth at the weekend, so it's likely to be Bradley again. So he's got a little bit of time there, if it is something minor, to recover in time for the derby, of course. So let's just wait and see on that one. Cameron Chambers says, a professional performance all around today in a frantic game. Yeah, absolutely it was. David says, Bournemouth is the best fitness in the league. And again, judging on today and what they've done in recent weeks, it's hard to disagree. And what makes that all the more remarkable is the fact that, thank you very much, is the fact that they're doing it with literally 11 and a bit senior players available. Like their bench there, I don't know if everyone's seen when the camera panned to that media box they've given to like basically a treatment room at this point. One of their media boxes at Bournemouth is just full of injured lads. And the bench was Tavernier came on, of course, and Dan Jefferson. Outside of that, there's no one. Like they have nobody fitting available to them from a senior point of view. So to put the shift in that they've been doing today and in recent weeks is some effort actually. Give them their credit. And they're a good team. They're a good team with some good players and players that I'm sure in the fullness of time, not naming names, but other football clubs might be taking a closer look at. Let's just leave it at that. Although one of them is not Justin Kluivert based on that absolutely horrendous miss. That was the moment. That's when the game's still on the knife edge, still very much in the balance. And if he scores that, who knows what happens thereafter. But the miss is a bad one. I think credit to Konate for getting back and even sort of getting in the eye line of Kluivert makes him think about the finish at least, because there's a moment there whereby the goal is at his mercy and he can just, as long as he gets it on target, he scores. Konate stops that from being the case by getting back across and at least making him think, okay, I might have to go higher. And that moment of indecision, that moment of like, oh shit, hopefully makes him miss. And if so, Ibu Konate, we owe you one, mate. I'll dive into Twitter momentarily before I jump back onto the YouTube. Sorav says, the king delivering when it matters most. Slot ball cooking against the most informed team in the Premier League. Top of the Champions League, top of the Premier League. 9 points clear of Arsenal with a game in hand. Well, the game in hand, yeah. What more can a Liverpool fan ask right now? 3 new contracts wouldn't go amiss, mate, but I'll take your point. Tim Wright says a great win as we were lucky at times, all about getting the 3 points. Yeah, it feels like that. And again, I sat here pre-show saying I wanted this type of win and that type of win, but let's not make no mistake about it. I'd take any type of win, certainly away from home, certainly against a team playing as well as Bournemouth are right now. Pass them on says Ali is back, our GOAT is back to his level, only result matters today against a very good Bournemouth built by Richard Hughes, who some brain dead Reds, not my words, call shite because they have no patience. Many got away with shite performances, mainly Sobbo, who ran a lot but did fuck all. That feels a little bit harsh. We move, okay, yeah. There we go. We need Semenyo. Sound. Wonderful. Yeah, that just descends into utter madness, like Twitter often does. So, without further ado, let's dive back into you guys on YouTube. We beat an informed Bournemouth at 40%, says Kat. 45%, sorry. Yeah, 45%. I think we were slightly better than that. I take your point, no. I take your point entirely. I don't think it was anything like the perfect, polished, 100% firing all cylinders performance that we all would have liked to have seen. But it was good. I'd have it more as like a 60-70%. I think certain players today definitely stood up to the test and stood up to the challenge and put in performances closer to that sort of level. 1 or 2 maybe off days. But honestly, I think collectively, I was really pleased. And often when some of our main lads do have a midweek off, you do see these sort of rusty, sluggish, sloppy type performances. It had elements of that today in certain parts. I think Trent's touch before he went off far too often was off, actually, to be honest with you. It caused some problems and real headaches defensively for ourselves via him. But yeah, generally I thought it was good. It was competitive. It was up for the fight, like I said earlier on. I wasn't too frustrated, disappointed by anybody's performance, if I'm being really honest. I think the subs impacted the game positive as well. Certainly Curtis Jones when he came on. So yeah, I think there's a lot to like from that today. And the main thing, of course, is the 3 points and what that means in terms of the league. And again, I said it earlier on, all eyes can now positively turn to the Emirates because it's over to you, Arsenal. Jake Pacheco, any relation to Danny? Bradley looked up for the physical battle. Trent was trying to be too cute. Yeah, Trent will never get away from that sort of stylistic perspective, I don't think, in terms of the way he plays, because that's just what he is. He was popping up in some really interesting positions there, actually. At one point, he was basically our centre forward, like heading towards goal, which was mad. He went central a lot more, really. But yeah, he's always going to be that footballer because he has genius at his feet, basically. Conor Bradley is a very, very good, by the way, sounds like I'm doing a bit of service, conventional up and down fullback with lots and lots of quality as well. But Trent's quality levels are superior to most footballers in the world and certainly in the Premier League. So he's always going to do slightly more adventurous things, let's put it like that, and try things that might not always come off and might do your head in a little bit, but You're never going to get that out of his game because that's just who he is. Yeah, I did enjoy this. We just need him to sign a new contract for it to actually be true, to be honest. So last couple of comments now. Josh Gavin says, "Foot Robbo was good today. Still not prime Robbo, but did very well." I agree. I think he was good. I think defensively he was good as well. Yeah, I love this. We need to spend a moment, and we might do it in a minute when I jump on the player rankings, but momentarily, that bit of skill, the no-look pass from Virgil was something, but the bit of skill from Ryan Gravenberch over on the far touchline to get away from like 2 or 3 was just outer-worldly. Honest to God, like, they I felt sorry for the Bournemouth lads around, to be honest with you, because they're going to have to watch that back and like clips and stuff like that, and they're going to have to go home to like the families and try and explain away what just happened there, all because of Ryan Gravenberch. Like, it was utter filth. Utter filth. Anyway, Robbo was solid, yeah. Honestly, it was just, good Lord. You run that as superlative for that man. You really are. Sad. I'll start to wrap up now. As I mentioned, it's the player ranking show next. That is the part of the day, night, morning, whatever time of day it is, where I go over to the board. There's rankings from boss sound to your messing. You come over and basically guide me every single step of the way into where the footballers should be.